and, unfortunately, on some occasions, actual acts of violence. These figures and these revelations are deeply concerning to us. Such behaviours have a clear negative effect on democratic representation, and this in turn can result in a disillusionment with political process and an overall loss of trust, leading to reduced participation in democratic systems. We know that engagement in politics at a local level is for all, making sure that nobody is discouraged to engage and participate on issues that are important to them. But we must now recognise that threats to local democracy are not distant problems or some theoretical debate. If left unaddressed, they can challenge the integrity of our local democratic structures and significantly disrupt our communities and societies. So what is the best way forward? We will build bridges today to secure stronger and safer democracies for tomorrow. And we'll build this bridge by implementing a number of actions at both a European level, but also national and local level, to protect and revitalise local democracy. The European Democracy Shield was adopted on my recommendation at college on the 12th of November just gone. It is our new modus operandi. It reflects our strong commitment to democracy by announcing specific actions and measures to safeguard democratic values and to promote collective resilience. It focuses on safeguarding, strengthening and promoting democracy by reinforcing the integrity of information, ensuring free and fair elections, supporting free media, strengthening civic participation and boosting societal resilience. And it's important to say here that protecting democracy is a collective endeavour. It requires all of us to work together. It's a whole of government and a whole of society approach, allowing citizens to live our shared democratic values every single day. It's also a marathon. It's not a sprint. It's a daily commitment that requires constant nurturing, attention and reinforcement. The truth is that our job will never be done. We can never say democracy is safe forever. We have to continue to invest in it and nurture it. Recognising citizens as the heartbeat of our democracies, their engagement in democratic life is critical to boosting societal resilience. To promote and strengthen citizens' engagement and participation, we will therefore explore possibilities to open our citizens' engagement platform or enable its interoperability with national, regional and local public administrations. Local democracy, inclusion and participatory approaches are also among the core values and principles of the new European Bauhaus, which supports local democracy through community engagement at the level of neighbourhoods. It is in the area of innovative digital tools that we will support pilot projects under relevant EU funding programmes involving local authorities, communities and tech startups to develop scalable civic tech solutions. And we'll also establish a hub to provide a comprehensive multilingual focal point, resources and tools for civic tech. The Commission's Europe Direct Centres will also act as local micro-hubs of democracy. They act as our voice, our eyes and our ears on the ground and help us to build this bridge to ensure strong democracies in the future. Today, as we celebrate the launch of ODEL, we welcome the Observatory's objectives, which will enhance democracy by monitoring threats, advocating for safer environments and providing peer support. Safety in politics is a major priority. A wide range of good practices aimed to better protect the safety of political candidates and elected representatives already exists in the EU. Several countries, regions and municipalities have developed innovative approaches to enhance democracy, foster safety and inclusivity in political processes, also covering the local level and local politicians. This includes awareness raising, training and workshops, support to politicians and online toolkits, peer-to-peer networks and coaching with dedicated cybersecurity training and anti-harassment hotlines. There are also dedicated research projects and data gathering to better understand all the threats, including against local politicians. Our work on this topic has already started with the framework of the European Cooperation Network on Elections, with a dedicated subgroup. We will engage with relevant stakeholders to prepare a Commission recommendation and a dedicated guide of best practices in the Member States. We will also support capacity building the collection of data and voluntary commitments and ethical standards in this field. This could, for example, concern further voluntary commitment and ethical engagement of local parties and campaign organisations. And particular attention is being paid to women and other groups at heightened risk of disinformation and to the situation of local politicians. I'd like to conclude with a quote from the late Václav Havel, who wisely said, "It is not enough to stare up the steps, we must step up the stairs." Local democracy is the heartbeat of European democracy. It is where citizens first experience democratic engagement and empowerment and represents the initial step in our collective journey towards vibrant and resilient democratic societies. We must act together now. European institutions, governments and local communities and citizens with shared commitment to defend and support our democratic life. Protecting local democracy means protecting every citizen's right to shape their own future, starting within their own local communities. And I want to assure you that you can count on my strong commitment and that of my team on this journey. In the rollout of the European Democracy Shield, we will engage with relevant players, including local communities, municipalities, as well as local candidates and politicians to bring innovative ideas to the table. And the work of the ODEL is going to be particularly important in this context, not least because of the evidence that you will provide us with. Firm evidence is a good basis for policy making and for us to take action. Its observatory could play a key role in protecting the integrity and resilience of local democratic systems, which form the foundation of broader democratic structures. I want to thank you in advance for the work that I know you are going to do. I thank you for your dedication. I want to assure you of my and our continued support, and I look forward to our collective endeavours in defending and revitalising democracy across Europe. I do apologise in advance that I'm not able to stay for your session this afternoon. I do have to catch a flight, but let's stay in touch. Let's stay in touch on this work, which we will do together, and I am encouraged and motivated further by the commitment that I have observed by virtue of you coming together and you working together to undertake this important initiative to protect democracy at its most local level, where it is so important. Thank you all very much.
Dear Commissioner, thank you very much. We know the challenge in front of us is huge, but from my perspective, it is very reassuring to hear clear and sound about your commitment and the commitment of the European Commission to tackle some of the challenges we'll be discussing today. And indeed, I hope this is a conversation that we will be developing with you also in the next months. Thank you very much for being with us today. Thank you. When we at CMR, we started the reflection on this new initiative, on the creation of the Observatory for the Defense of Democracy at the local level, one of the first things we did instinctively was to look at the internet and try really to understand whether there was any university, any institution, scientific institutions in Europe that had been addressing this phenomenon in the past. And there is one name really that came up very clearly from our research, is the name of Bocconi University. Bocconi has been investigating this phenomenon in the past, mostly in connection with organized crime in Italy. And within Bocconi, a specific unit, the CLEAN unit, led by Professor Gianmarco Daniele, is really the unit that is being in the past years really building all this evidence that was also submitted to the Italian institutions in the past. And I think in Italy it's also fair to say this has also triggered a bit of a political debate on violence against local elected officials in connection with organized crime. So for us it was crystal clear since the beginning. If we want to work on this seriously, if we want really to start this work by collecting scientific evidence, we need to work with Bocconi. This is why I'm very pleased today to have with us our friends, representative from Bocconi University, and especially we have with us Professor Gianmarco Daniele. Professor Daniele will help us really to understand how we will work under ODAL all together to understand this phenomenon, to understand the trends that are evident already out there. And of course, these all look very promising. Professor Daniele, please join me on the podium, please.
Thank you for the kind words. I'm very excited of being here. I prepared some slides because academics are unable to talk without slides. But I don't have a pointer, so I don't know how I'm going to use them. And there are no slides here. OK, great. I'll wait a second. And yeah, so I'll say a few words in the meanwhile the slides pop up. That is, I started to work on this topic during my PhD, which was actually here in Brussels, like 10 years ago, or a little more than 10 years ago. When I started to work on this topic, this wasn't a hot topic at all. There were barely any quantitative study, in general, any studies at all on the phenomenon of violence toward local politicians. This was 10 years ago. Today, the picture is a bit different. And so great. Now we'll see how. There is something I click for the slide, or I just raise my hand and... You can just send a message. OK, slide. OK. So when I started to think about the meeting today, I wanted to provide you a clear image, not based on number, but based on something a bit that's, OK, now they look better. Maybe tragicomic, but this picture, I think, really highlights how the political situation has shifted from just 10 years ago on what we read nowadays in the news compared to what we read in the news a few years ago. And I hope you can notice the message is the one at the bottom if it wasn't clear. So slide. So we have this perception that there has been an increase in political conflicts and in violence in the political arena. OK, great. But so doesn't matter. I'll tell you if the slides show up is better. But so there has been, in the last few years, a number of high-level targets, a number of high-level politicians that have been targeted across both Europe and the US. And here you see some of the names. You probably recognize some of them in the US, in the UK. There has been a prominent case in Slovakia, in Spain. And if you know a bit about Latin America, you will know that this problem is very, very serious in Latin America. So in the last 10 years, there has been hundreds of politicians killed across Latin America, across especially Mexico, Brazil, Colombia. This is a very huge problem that we are starting to discuss today, unfortunately, but it has been a very lasting heritage in Latin America for a long time. So violence is targeting both national and local politicians for a very broad number of reasons. And indeed, if you know the cases of the top, you might know also the reasons are very heterogeneous, from personal reason to ideology to backlash against specific policies. Another element that is important is that this is violence that takes place both offline and online. And this is something to take into account when we study this phenomenon. Slide. So this is our perception. So our perception is that things are getting worse. There is more conflict in the political arena and more violence toward local politicians. So as academics, we try to ask ourselves, is this really the case? Do we really see more violence in local politics? So is our perception in line with reality? And the truth is that right now, we cannot really say whether this is the case. And the problem is that we don't have good data. So we don't have good data about violence toward politicians at the local level and in general. So this is, I think, is the biggest motivation for why we are here today, because we aim to this observatory to collect good data on this phenomenon. No slides, OK. So I'll try to tell you a summary of what I would have told you with the slides. That is, while we don't have good data at European level about this, Italy is an exception. So Italy is an exception because there has been an association that in the last 15 years has been collecting good data about this systematically, working in cooperation with the Italian government on this phenomenon. And the reason is very simple, and is that Italy has been fighting criminal organization for a long period, and criminal organizations are very interested in influencing politics. Therefore, they tend to be violent toward politicians. Yeah, you can go on if you can. But so, okay. So let me tell you a bit more about this data, and what we know from this data. This is a very widespread phenomenon in Italy. What we see today, we see more than one attack per day. So this is a quite a widespread phenomenon, and the targets are local politicians. However, we don't see a lot of media coverage about this because a local politician tends to not be too newsworthy. So this news rarely reach national media, they tend to stay at the local level, therefore we don't hear much about this. You can go ahead. And as I said, organized crime here play a relevant role, and you can go ahead. Okay, it's a bit slow. Okay. So the first study I would like to tell you about, it's a study in which we focus on the role of organized crime within this context. So maybe the slide will appear, but what I would like to show you are the main categories of attacks. So the most likely, the most common attacks are attacks toward the property of politicians, like the set on fire the car of a mayor, or they set on fire properties that belong to the politician or to the municipality. The second most common type of attacks are threat, like threatening letters, letter with bullets, and then physical assaults. So in this data that we study, we are not focusing on online violence, but of offline violence. So again, property attacks, physical assaults, threats. What is a big difference between threats and physical assaults? That most physical assaults, and of course if they burn my car, I'm gonna report this to the police, right? While threats are less likely to be reported. So even in this case, where we have good data, those are very partial, because not all threats are obviously reported, okay? So we have to take this into account when we try to study this phenomenon. Another element that you would see in the slide, maybe when they go on, is that most of those attacks are concentrated in southern Italy, where criminal organizations are stronger. Now, in the first paper on this topic, we study the motivations. So we try to exploit the timing of the attack to try to understand why criminal organizations attack local politicians. What we find is something very clear, and that is in places where criminal organizations are active, we see more attacks immediately after the election. That is in the 1 month after the election. Our interpretation is that criminal organizations want to influence politicians from the start of the mandate because they are a kind of a pressure group. They want to show that that the mayor has to deal with them in order to rule the municipality. In line with these interpretations, the attacks are targeting newly elected mayor. So what we find in terms of more attacks immediately after the election is completely driven by new mayors, that for the first time they have to face these pressure groups in an area, of course, where there are those pressure groups, criminal organizations. So this is the finding of a first study that was done 10 years ago. It was kind of opening this research agenda. In the second study, we studied the consequences on political selection. And here again, unfortunately, Italy had a lot of political violence in the 70s and the 80s, from criminal organizations to politicians. More than 100 politicians were killed in Italy in the 70s and the 80s. What we do in this study, we compare municipality with or without the murder of politicians before and after. What we focus is political selection. The idea is that if politics is risky, politics is dangerous, people are going to stay out of politics, especially people that have better outside options, like competent people. This is what we find. We find that competent people, educated people, young people, and women stay out of politics when politics is a risky business, as in our case, characterized by the murder of a politician in a specific municipality. This brings me to the last paper I would like to tell you about, that is about the gender dimension. So in this paper, that is also the most recent, we compare attacks toward women and men. So a simple comparison might not be enough, because women and men are different on many dimensions. Women tend to be more educated and younger and less experienced when they enter politics. And also they tend to be elected in different places. So for instance, they can be elected in bigger cities. There is more political conflict in bigger cities. So this could explain both phenomena. So basically what we do in order to have a proper comparison, we compare men and women in politics. We focus on mayor, who are similar or more than 80 characteristics, both individual characteristics like age, education, and so on, and characteristics of the places where they are elected, in order to isolate the effect of being a woman on violence. So what we find is that women are 3 times more likely to be attacked. Okay, so it's a massive difference. The probability of being attacked goes from 8% to 24% for a woman, for a female mayor, so a massive effect. Then we try to understand why. In our sample that is characterized by female and male mayors that are comparable, as I say, they implement similar policy. They are not different in terms of corruption. So once in office, they are not behaving differently. So it's not what they do in office that might explain this finding. Second, the effects are focused in the first year of their electoral mandate, and they take place in all sorts of places, also cities with very progressive gender norms. So at the end, our interpretation is about a backlash toward the presence of women in politics, their higher level of visibility, which is not driven, again, by what they do, but simply by the fact that they are there and they are more visible in politics. So those are the 3 studies I wanted to tell you about. The first one is about the determinants. Why do we see these attacks in places where there is organized crime, which today I think is more and more relevant in other contexts. For instance, there has been attacks to our politicians in places we will not expect it, like Belgium and the Netherlands in the last few years, as well as Sweden. So this problem seems to matter more and more today in more European countries. In the second study, we studied the effects, showing that political selection is tremendously affected by this. And in the last one, we focus on this gender dimension, showing that women are more likely to be attacked massively. A key element I wanted to highlight is that those studies were possible due to data availability. So due to the fact that there was an NGO that has been collecting systematically this data every year in a homogeneous way. Those data are available right now only in Italy, and I think a role of the observatory is to collect better data, this sort of data also for other countries, hopefully for the entire European Union. And it's not going to be easy, because there isn't even a common data set about local politicians across the European Union. So we have, I think, a lot to do here. And as I know, many of you work with the municipality. I think it's also your interest to advocate for the creation of a data set of European local politicians, because this will be helpful not only for us, but for many other topics that concern local politics. And I think I can stop here. Thank you.
Professor Daniele, thank you very much. That was a very interesting presentation, and I think now you deserve a special prize. We will buy a pointer for you for your next intervention here in this room. Thank you very much, because we are really proud of this partnership with Bocconi, and I insist on this. What makes this initiative very unique is really this scientific dimension that we bring to the observatory, because this is really where data gathering really makes a difference. And collecting data on this is not easy, as you are already anticipating. This is a very complex phenomenon. Aggregated data, and then disaggregating this into the different categories is not going to be easy. But we are on this, we are very much committed, And I really think that already starting with the next meeting next year in April, May, hopefully we will be able already to share a bit of those data with all of you. Now, it is the moment to start, to kick off our panel debate. And for this panel debate, I invite to join me here on stage the mayor of Bilbao, Mr. Aburto. Mayor, please join me on stage. We have Miss Esther Apraiz, President of EUDEL. Esther, please. We have Miss Gunn-Marit Helgesen, President of CMR. President, please. And we also have Madame Marie-Hélène Boulanger, Head of Unit at DG Just. Madame Boulanger, please. Last but not least, we have connected online. Can you just confirm the connection is working well? Because we have Mr. Francesco Billari, Rector of Bocconi, connecting from Milan. I'm just looking for the confirmation that Mr. Billari is online and is able to speak. But with no further ado, I propose that we kick off this exchange. And I propose that we start from you, Mayor. Bilbao has a strong tradition of citizen participation. So my question for you is, how local authorities can ensure that local elected officials can play their role safely, meaning engaging with the citizens on the ground, but not taking any risk and not feeling in danger? What is the secret? What local institution can do to ensure these safeguards?
It's not easy to do it not taking any risk, because always there are some risks surrounding us. Well, first of all, I would like to begin by thanking the organizers of this meaningful conversation, and as well to thank to address the essential questions, the important that concern to all of us in this Bilbao.
Well, what I was saying is that I wanted to thank the organizers of this important, this meaningful conversation, and as well the opportunity to join this meeting in which we have to address the important, essential question that concerns to all of us this afternoon. In Bilbao, our answer begins with a simple, but I would say powerful conviction, is that values are the backbone of citizen engagement and trust. Bilbao is a city of values, not because we inherit them, but because we have chosen them collectively. This journey for us began in 2016, involving thousands of citizens and a lot of institutions and organizations. The result was the Bilbao Charter of Values, and this is a framework of 17 different values that have been shared with a lot of different groups of citizens of all the different parts and groups from the city of Bilbao, and including respect for human rights, transparency, as well participation, justice, social justice, equality between men and women, co-responsibility, trust, 17 principles that are a framework very important for us. These values are not just words. These values guide every policy that we try to develop in the city of Bilbao. Each of our actions are joined with this, not only with the with the ODSs, as well with these values that are very important for us. We have to believe in them, and our action has to be connected with these values. This is the foundation that allows elected representatives to work securely while staying close to the people they serve, and reflects our shared belief that democracy is defined not only by law, but as well by civic culture, by respect, and by listening. This is very, very important. So how these values are translated into action? First of all, because we embed digital safety and inclusion into our policies. For example, the program, the initiative of cybersecurity for citizens program that was awarded internationally, protect online interaction and promotes well digital literacy, because engagement nowadays happens not only in the streets, as well online. So it's very important to be in both of them. Second, we foster a culture of respect and coexistence through different programs, as intercultural city plan. Then I will talk about this a little bit more, or how we do the investment in our neighborhoods with a participatory process in which citizens decide which are going to be the investments in that neighborhood. We call it Ausokide Plana, and we have a lot of different areas of participation, very close to the youth people. These platforms empower citizens to co-create policies and reinforcing trust and reducing hostility. When people feel that are heard, and when people feel that values are considered, the threats are being reduced. So we have to try all the voices to be heard, and as well, I would say that we have to try not to leave anyone behind. And finally, we understand that safety is not only physical, it is as well social. While citizens feel they are heard, are included, and when values as social justice and solidarity are visible in public action, the environment becomes safer for everyone. As you know, in the Basque Country, we have had decades of terrorism and a lot of victims, a lot of people suffering. I decided in 2017 to create a forum of peace and coexistence, and this is being a space of dialogue between the political parties and the institutions and the victims of the terrorism in our country. It's a very special space in which we try to hear the victims and to all the policies we develop in this area have to be, first of all, worked in this very special space. And as I have told you before, a very special space for the migrants, to support migration and to support the people coming to our country. It is a space in which we do the first reception to these people, trying to help them in the first things they need. For example, in looking for the school for the boys and girls, or how to access to the health system. I think that I am going too long, or I can stop here.
Maybe yes, for now,
you.
and then I'll get back to you, Mayor. Thank you very much for explaining so clearly the agenda that you have for Bilbao, and now actually this is really helping in creating the safe conditions for you and your councillors for your work you do on the ground. Now I'll move to the president of EUDEL and mayor of the Rio, Miss Esther Apraiz. Esther, we know national associations are sometimes the safety net for local councillors facing violence and threats. What are the lessons that we can learn from the Basque Country? What from the Basque Country or the work that you can do or the work you are doing can inspire other associations across Europe?
Bueno, good afternoon for everyone. First, I must thank the CMR for the opportunity to contribute with the Basque experience to the defense of the democracy in Europe. Thank you, Fabrizio Rossi and Mar Zabala, for coming up with this necessary and inspiring project. I must also thank Bilbao City Council and the Basque government for our strong partnership. Basque partners of EUDEL are pleased to say with Bocconi University and the big family of the Council this exciting journey we start today. Bueno, me van a permitir que continúe ahora ya en español y ya centrándonos un poco en lo que ha sido la pregunta. En primer lugar, sí que me gustaría deciros que las instituciones vascas hemos aprendido 3 claves fundamentales para proteger y para reforzar la democracia local, que son commitment, cooperation and ambition. En primer lugar, compromiso con el servicio público, ¿no? Somos 1 millón de electos y electas locales en Europa. Y los electos y electas locales somos el rostro de la democracia en nuestros municipios y en nuestras comunidades. Y somos hombres y mujeres que trabajamos al servicio de nuestras comunidades. En segundo lugar, la cooperación. En Euskadi, la cultura del pacto es nuestro ADN y tenemos clarísimo que el diálogo y el acuerdo entre diferentes son la base para la convivencia democrática. Y por último, y como tercera idea clave, la de la ambición, porque tenemos que gobernar con ambición para mejorar la calidad de vida de nuestros vecinos y de nuestras vecinas y también tenemos que actuar con ambición para construir una mejor sociedad para las futuras generaciones. Por otro lado, nuestra memoria democrática también explica muy bien cuál ha sido la trayectoria de las instituciones vascas en favor tanto del pluralismo como del buen gobierno. Tras la dictadura franquista, los electos y electas en aquel momento fueron capaces de construir unas instituciones democráticas y modernas que son las que hoy en día disfrutamos en este momento. Posteriormente, también hemos pasado épocas marcadas por la violencia y por el miedo, porque en Euskadi nos ha tocado vivir eso también. Y los electos y electas de aquel momento se pusieron en primera línea y defendieron también la democracia, en definitiva, defendieron a las comunidades. Y es por ello que ahora, ante estas nuevas amenazas del totalitarismo, de los discursos de odio y también de la desinformación, que erosionan todas con la confianza de la ciudadanía, nos toca actuar con determinación. Tenemos que proteger los valores y los derechos humanos que son la base de nuestra democracia y que no están garantizados. Si no las protegemos, podemos perderlas, ¿no? Y por eso quiero hacer un llamamiento a la acción. Tenemos que proteger las instituciones locales. ¿Y cómo podemos hacerlo? Bueno, pues apoyando a nuestros representantes locales, porque los representantes locales somos los y las que más cerca estamos de la ciudadanía. Y lo que está claro es que gobernar cerca de la gente, gobernar de la mano de la comunidad es una vacuna contra todo este discurso de odio y contra el fanatismo. Y también me atrevo a lanzar un mensaje a mis homónimos y homónimas alcaldes y alcaldesas para que se animen a impulsar modelos de gobernanza o de liderazgo participativos, más colaborativos y transformadores, y siempre basados en los principios de respeto, igualdad, cohesión, cooperación y convivencia. Y dicho todo esto, reconozco pues, que precisamente la trayectoria de los ayuntamientos vascos es la que nos ha permitido acumular una experiencia en materia de gobernanza democrática que creo que puede servir de inspiración a muchos municipios europeos. A modo de ejemplo, hemos sido pioneros en implantar el sello Eloge de buen gobierno, impulsado por la Comisión Europea. En Eudel también hemos creado una red de electas vascas, es de las únicas que hay en Europa, y este año hemos aprobado una serie de medidas que las hemos puesto a disposición de los ayuntamientos para combatir la violencia machista contra las electas locales. Y todo este aprendizaje queremos ponerlo a disposición y al servicio del observatorio que hoy presentamos. Y nuestra aportación a Europa creemos que debe centrarse en las personas, poner en el centro a las personas. ¿A qué personas? A las que damos vida a la democracia, que por un lado somos los alcaldes y alcaldesas y concejales y concejalas, que, como he dicho al principio, trabajamos al servicio de la comunidad, pero también tenemos que poner en el centro a las personas que representan la democracia, que son la propia ciudadanía. Porque la ciudadanía, cuando se siente escuchada, cuando la ciudadanía se siente que participa, es cuando la democracia florece y podemos garantizar que perdure en el tiempo. Y bueno, ya me gustaría terminar con un mensaje que creo que también considero que es clave, que es el de la importancia de cuidar el talento en la política local. No podemos permitir que la intimidación, el acoso o la amenaza afecte a la vida política, porque cuando un electo o una electa abandona su cargo, la democracia se debilita. Y está claro que eso no lo podemos permitir, ¿no? Necesitamos, por lo tanto, y creo que esa es la razón de ser de este observatorio, una de las razones de ser principales, cuidar el talento y atraer el talento también para garantizar el relevo generacional. Y cuando hablamos de relevo generacional, hablamos de juventud. Necesitamos que los jóvenes y las jóvenes electas participen en la política, necesitamos un liderazgo fresco, necesitamos un liderazgo atrevido, valiente y que esté cerca de la propia juventud. Y para eso tenemos que dejar de hablar sobre la juventud y tenemos que empezar a construir con la juventud. Y para ello propongo que en este observatorio que hoy presentamos y ponemos en marcha se incluya la visión de la juventud para combatir también ese desencanto que vive la juventud hacia la política. Y bueno, no podemos olvidar que la democracia solo va a mantenerse viva, si las nuevas generaciones participan, porque la voz de la juventud es el futuro de nuestras ciudades y de nuestra sociedad. Thank you.
Muchas gracias, Esther, para poner en el foco la juventud. Evidentemente tomamos nota y contentos de trabajar esta dimensión en el marco del observatorio. I see Rector Francesco Billari is online. Rector, I trust you can hear me well. Yes. Yes, we cannot hear you. Colleagues, can you please double check the sound? Rector, I was happy to meet you in Milan this year for the event organized by Bocconi and Corriere della Sera. And I remember very clearly, I heard you speaking about universities being a catalyst for more democratic and societies and for societies free of inequalities. Now, my question for you is the following. I would be very glad to hear how universities can contribute to a safer democratic system in Italy and, of course, in Europe. Rector. No, this is not working. Rector, unfortunately, we are not able to hear from you. I kindly ask my colleagues and the technicians to check the sound, and I propose that I'll get back to you just in 5 minutes after the next intervention. Okay for you? Thank you very much for being with us. Thank you. Now, President Gun-Marit Helgesen, President of the Council of European Municipalities and Regions. President, what is our ask to European institutions? We know this trend is worrying. And we just heard the Commissioner that there is the political will to work with us on tackling this phenomenon. So maybe let's clarify a little bit what is our ask to the European institutions.
Thank you, Fabrizio. Let me first thank the previous speakers for a very important message, and also to the professor. Since I'm also the president of the association in Norway, I recognize all your data, because we have also collected data for 5, 6, 7 years. And women, minorities, and youth are most attacked. And the consequences is the same. They don't want to be re-elected, or they don't speak up. So that's we already know. But as already said by the Commissioner, I was very pleased to hear him, because he said the same, that local and regional governments are not just one level among others. They live democracy. They live where democracy is appearing every day on daily basis. But they also play a double role, an essential role, because they bring Europe closer to the citizens. We need to translate European voices and policies to our citizens, and also into concrete realities, because we have to implement policies made by the Commission on the European level. And they can bring citizens' concerns back to Europe, feeding European decision-making with lived experience from the ground. So this proximity is not a weakness, it's actually one of Europe's greatest democratic strengths. And I think local and regional governments, they are not only implementers of policies, they are drivers of Europe's democratic legitimacy and development. So when we realize we have seen the past years more and more pressure towards local democracy. And in France, for example, mayors have faced extreme hostility linked to local policy decisions. And we have this mayor of Saint-Brévin-le-Py, I'm not a French speaker, as you can hear, resigned after his home was set on fire following sustained threats. And during this urban unrest of 2023, dozens of town halls were attacked, and local elected representatives became direct targets of violence and intimidation. We have also examples from Germany. The mayor of Cologne, Henriette Reke, who got stabbed in the neck one day before the elections. Walter Lübke, the president of the local district of Kassel, was murdered in 2019. In Italy, mayors have been threatened or placed under protection because of decisions related to organized crime. It was already mentioned by the professor, urban planning or migration, and this is very sensitive topics, also at local level. In the Netherlands, harassment and threats against mayors and councillors are also a reality. I think in every country in Europe, this is reality, and it's very sad news, and we need to put it very high on the agenda. All these examples are different in form, but similar in effect, because they lead to self-censorship. We silence people, they withdraw from public debate, and in some cases, the decision not to seek re-election. And we see this also in my country. They particularly affect women, minorities, and younger representatives. I already said so, and you documented it as well. They already face barriers to political participation, and this come on top. So this has been clearly demonstrated within our CMR Women in Politics study released in 2024. We already have a study for women in 2024 in the CMR. So this recent study, Local Truth, Shared Trust, underlines the threats posed by misinformation and disinformation to local democratic life. And this is not just a security issue. It is, as everybody has said so far, democratic warning sign that we should consider an answer to it. So democracy really collapses in one night. It erodes when intimidation becomes normal, when public services become unsafe, and when proximity to citizens turns from strength into vulnerability. If local elected representatives cannot act freely and safely, Europe's democratic foundations are weakened from the bottom up. Protecting local democracy is therefore not a sectoral concern. It is a strategic investment in the resilience, credibility, and unity of Europe itself. The European Democracy Shield is therefore both timely and very necessary. And I really welcome it. It rightly recognized that democracy today is threatened by disinformation, hybrid attacks, foreign interference, and shrinking civic space. And these dynamics affect every level of governance. But I would also like to say this clearly and constructively. This communication keeps local and regional governments in the shadows, and it remains unclear as to how the Shield will meaningfully involve local and regional authorities. If we want the European Democracy Shield to protect democracy where it's lived, then local and regional government must be explicitly recognized as frontline democratic actors, not only as implementers or stakeholders. And this is where cooperation becomes essential, and where the European Observatory for the Defense of Democracy at the local level, UDEL, can play a concrete role alongside the Commission. And that's why I'm very happy to hear that he really wanted to cooperate with us. I think this partnership is necessary in order to continue, at least get a positive development. Feeding local level evidence and early warning signals into the future European Centre for Democratic Resilience, documenting patterns of intimidation and threats against local elected representatives, including during and beyond electoral periods, supporting the drafting and implementation of the Commission's recommendation on the safety of political actors with guidance tailored to municipalities and regions, and contributing to the stakeholder platform foreseen under the Shield, ensuring that local democratic perspective is fully integrated. So in this sense, UDEL and the European Democracy Shield go hand in hand. The Shield provides the strategic framework, and UDEL helps make it operational on the ground. So we stand ready to work with the European Commission, the Member States, and all partners to ensure that Europe's democratic protection mechanisms truly reflect the multi-level reality of democracy. Because strengthening Europe's democracy does not start in Brussels, or in Oslo, or in Paris. It starts in our towns, cities, and regions. And I think the only way we can combat these threats are together. Together we are so much stronger, but then we need to work together. Thank you.
Thank you very much, dear President. Rector, shall we give it a try again?
Hear me?
Okay, this is better, but not perfect either. Rector, we have another option here. It's really good to have such smart people in the room. We can, if you agree, we can call you on your phone, if you have the phone with you, and then I just put the phone here next to me and the microphone on. This is a little bit old school, but I think it can work. Are you okay with this? That's fantastic. Thank you very much. So you will receive a phone call, not from me, but from Italo, anytime soon.
I'm trying to go.
And then we will go live with you. Thank you.
I don't know. You need to push me your concrete points. Exactly, because I was not taking it carefully. I hope
Rector, we are almost there. We are trying with a different phone. We'll make it, huh? I'm very optimistic, as always. So, oh, it's ringing.
Yes,
Hello, Rector. Francesco Bidari, can you hear me well?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yes. Let's try this way. Rector, that's very good input. I think you should probably shut down your Zoom connection, because it's creating a bit of conflict here.
I shut down the audio. I'm just keeping the video.
Thank you very much. Rector, you are live. We hear you very well. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for inviting us, and I'd like to thank also for the kind words about Bocconi, and of course Professor Daniele was representing a lot our contribution. About the contribution of universities to local democracy, I have 3 points, and I will finish a bit with with the linking up to what Professor Daniele was presenting. First thing I'd like to say, universities are central in many local areas. Certainly in all the big cities. I can give the example of Bocconi. So Bocconi is part of the city of Milan. Actually, the mayor of the city of Milan is a Bocconi graduate. So I also enjoyed the discussion and the focus on youth. Universities are in the process of educating the next generations of politicians and policymakers, starting at the local level, hopefully at all levels. In particular, we know that in this century, the majority of young people will attend university. That's true at the European level. The OECD level, we are almost 50%. And so universities are a central type of institution in building trust in democracy, participation, both at the local and at all levels. So I think it's not by chance, to be frank, that when there is an attack on democracy, universities are among the first institutions to come under attack. So it's not a chance. There have been cases of kind of aggressions to university leaders as well. So I think we are aware of our duties, and universities, as Piero famously said, universities are the first, one of the first pillars of democracies. So this is a first point. The second point is certainly connected to the role of Bocconi in this project. So universities, and in particular research universities, can improve the world, can contribute to evidence-based policies, and the kind of research that the CLEAN team has been doing over the last over a number of years has been contributing, certainly within Italy and hopefully now at a broader European level, to improving policy making in general, to improving the defense of democracy, to suggesting potential policy avenues. Of course, as Professor Daniele mentioned, this means that to be serious, we have to take the word science seriously when we do social science. We need to take data seriously when we want to have evidence-based policies. And so for this reason, we need to build innovative and large data sets that will support democracy in a way that is science-based. And again, it's not by chance that when democracy is under attack, also science, and in particular social science, gets under attack. And so in this sense, I'd like to stress the role of universities in general, but also in particular social science universities in fostering democracy and protecting democracy, certainly at the local level where we also operate, but at broader levels. So we're very glad to be part of this exciting project. And I like also to underline the very serious approach that I'm seeing from the politicians also in the room. And I'd love to have such a distinguished group of politicians in general as debating the results and the avenues for research. So thanks a lot.
Rector, thank you very much. I will now close our phone call. Why do we need Zoom? Because this is working so well, right? Thank you very much, Rector. And next time, of course, we are looking forward to having you with us here in Brussels. Thank you very much. We are, of course, very glad of this partnership with Bocconi. Again, this scientific dimension is so important to the work we do. Now we are ready to hear from the European Commission. We have with us Ms. Marie-Hélène Boulanger, Head of Unit at DG Just. Ms. Boulanger, for you, the question is, I would say, is an obvious consequence of the discussion that we're having here. How can we, CMR, our national associations of local and regional governments, and the European Commission work together to address this issue?
Thanks a lot. Do you hear me better? Yes. So, no, thanks a lot for inviting us to this very, very important event. I would like first to thank the organizers for this invitation, and also to thank the previous speakers, because I'm a bit in a difficult position. I have the feeling everything has been said already. Now I will try to reply to the point and to invitation, and following also Commissioner McGrath. So where do we come from? And starting with the context, we are in a union of value. So that's the basis of the European construction. And we have, and it has been said, a collective responsibility to support the resilience of our democracies. It has been said democracies start at local level and also starts young. Now, Commissioner McGrath has set the scene on the importance of the topic which is discussed today. And I want to move a bit to the opportunities, which is, I think, your question, to work together. So, to come back on what you said, a safe place to enter and to stay in politics is not only a question of security, obviously, it's a question of foundation of our democracy. We have heard a lot about what's happening, what's going on. I will not go in the detail any longer, but just to say that there are different challenges at stake, and the local level is absolutely important in this context. Going to the evidence which has been mentioned, we have some evidence, we have heard, but I would call it a bit anecdotal, some qualitative, but we still have a fragmented picture. And it's why this work, and I can only echo what the rector just said about this importance for evidence-based policy, is fundamental. So if we can put together, have better data where we can also be more strategic in our approach, we can also see how to have a significant impact and work where it matters. And maybe also to echo to something the director just said, the importance of science in democracy. It's something I'm sure you have noticed is also acknowledged in the European Democracy Shield as an important element, because to have evidence policy, but also to address disinformation and manipulation, you need some science there. And so I wanted to underline this point. Now, we see obviously these patterns. We see the impact on the local level, the impact on women, the impact on groups at heightened risk of discrimination, the impact on local level and on young people. And what I want to bring to you is that what we see, there is also a community, you, but not only you, many people willing to work on these topics. So I would like to put a bit of positive atmosphere in this discussion to say, indeed, it's challenging, but what we see that there is a lot of goodwill and strong will, I would say, to work with us on these topics. And so that's something I wanted to highlight. Now, we have announced action under the European Democracy Shield. These actions, they do not start from scratch. The first thing I would like to keep in mind, and that's been mentioned, is that we have already a very rich legal and policy framework. It can be on organized crime, it can be on violence against women, it can be on victims' rights. We are in charge in YTG on the regulation on transparency and targeting of political advertising. So if there is a political ad targeting a specific politician, including at local level, there are some duties and requirements, including to show the source of this, to show that it's an attack against the politicians. There are things which are there in the framework. We had also a very comprehensive recommendation on election for the election to the European Parliament, which contained a call for political parties and other entities to come with a cause and pledge in order to support free and fair election. And for instance, European political parties have done so, and some local and national parties have also done so. Now, in our action for the future, we will build on all this, build on this rich legal and policy framework, but moving into the next level. And it's why this data and this evidence-based policy and this goodwill we see in this room is so important. Regarding the dedicated policy product that would come, one of them is a guide of best practice. And this is something which will be a voluminous document. It's really looking at the regulatory, the policy framework, but also at the best practice which exists. And why do we do so? Because these kind of practical tools allow to designate best practice. What works in a part of Europe can be helpful in other part of Europe. And I would like to also underline that the preparation of these tools is also important. So the discussion around it is as important, I would say, as the end products, because it allows a lot of people to engage and to show their commitment. There will be a Commission recommendation, but there will be also a capacity building. So we will do our best with all our capacity to see how we can support capacity building and also foster code and pledge. And I heard about this charter, for instance, you have. That's exactly that. It's about this charter in view of promoting values, a charter by different entities. How can we go about these topics? So I wanted to bring this and say that on our side, we are very committed, very willing to work with you. And the work has started. The governance which has been established by the European Democracy Shield on this topic is within what we call the European Cooperation Network on Election, which is a network of contact point of national authorities. And they've started to work on this topic since a long time. They've started already to identify issues, etc., etc. Engagement with other communities will start. And you might have noticed that in the European Democracy Shield, there are other references to the local level, including networks we will establish on participatory democracies. And many of these topics are cross-cutting. So that means that we will engage strongly with the means we have with you. And in this context, I would like to underline that if you have feedback, please give it to us. We will organize it in a structured manner, but already from this discussion, I took many notes about some points which were of attention for you. So I thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you very much, Ms. Boulanger, and thank you for highlighting this element of community. Because I really believe that if we want really to be effective in the work we do to tackle this issue, we cannot work in silos. Huh? This is a very complex and systemic issue that we have in front of us. It's really important that we are able to bring different actors around the table. Now, before opening the floor to the audience, before checking whether there is one or two questions from the audience, we have here in the room two friends that are representing institutions that work very closely with CMR. And I would like to hear from them quickly before opening the floor and then moving to the wrap-up. We have with us Mr. Mark Kuls, President of the Congress of Local and Regional Authorities within the Council of Europe. President, we know that the Congress is working, is monitoring violence against local elected officials. What are the trends we should monitor in the future to better understand this phenomenon? President, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. Good afternoon, everyone. Buenas tardes. It's a great pleasure to address you today in a time of great pressure on our democracies. Today, Europe and the world are facing a storm fueled by war, shifting geopolitics, democratic backsliding, climate crisis, and disinformation. Populist, nationalist, and extremist parties are progressing, and first and foremost, citizen trust in democratic institutions and elected representatives is decreasing. Trust in local elected representatives, particularly mayors, is greater than trust in politicians on any other levels of government. However, this trust is also decreasing in some countries. Now, coming to your specific question, we have indeed seen warning signs in our monitoring and election observation work. In 2024, we issued a report highlighting the recurring issues identified through the Congress monitoring of the European Charter of Local Self-Government and election observation missions between 2021 and 2024. This report was intended to serve as an early warning mechanism to prevent democratic backsliding at local and regional levels. Firstly, we have seen in some countries tendencies towards recentralization. Questions about competencies, their clarity and alignment with the principle of subsidiarity have always been raised. The report also questions the level and structure of local finance and about the types of administrative supervision. Secondly, our monitoring of the Charter shows a sharp rise in threats, verbal and physical aggression, and not only in Italy, and undue pressure targeting locally elected representatives, especially mayors. Much of this hostility takes place online through disinformation, harassment, and hate speech. These conclusions were already apparent in our 2022 report, exposing the impact of hate speech and fake news on the working conditions of local and regional elected representatives. The figures are alarming. Over 60%, or 1/2, of mayors in Germany and a quarter of mayors in the Netherlands have been threatened in some form. This issue remains a priority for the Congress, as we are currently working on a report on violence against local and regional elected representatives, which will be discussed at the 50th Congress session in March 2026. Our democracies cannot function if their representatives are threatened and unable to fully carry out their mandates. These attacks do not only affect individuals and their families, they endanger the very principles of local governance, undermining citizen trust in institutions and the ability of local governments to deliver essential services. As far as our electoral observation missions, we often see a worrying deterioration of the campaigning environment across Europe. With the rising use of negative campaigning, elections at local and regional levels are increasingly marked by strong polarisation, hate speech, and disinformation, often amplified through social media. This trend not only undermines program-based democratic debate, but also discourages potential candidates from running for office, which has a paralyzing effect on political life at the local level. So it's very important that also as politicians, we show a good example and not to do hate speech. Now, to tackle these challenges, we need to not only issue reports, but we also need robust tools that allow us to understand, analyze, and monitor threats in a systematic way. And of course, to propose and implement solutions which can help us take efficient action. Last May, Secretary General of the Council of Europe, Mr. Berset, presented the new Democratic Pact for Europe. The pact will be a strategic and political tool to reinforce the foundations of democracy, restore confidence, and innovate its form. It will serve as a concrete roadmap, linking principles together with real action, reinforcing the rule of law, transparency, civic participation, media freedom, local governance, and electoral integrity. To conclude, dear colleagues, I want to congratulate you on launching this initiative, the European Observatory for the Defense of Democracy at the local level, and the different actors of these initiatives. I have no doubt that it will play an active role in defending democracy in general and local democracy in particular. This defense requires commitment from all of us, and I am delighted that it is the case. Synergies between organizations as the CMR, the Congress, the Committee of the Region, and the Assembly of the European Regions. Together, we are stronger in representing the views of local and regional authorities. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We have another friend in the room representing the European Parliament, Oyan Aguirre-Gotia Martinez, member of the European Parliament. Oyan has been serving at the local level as a local elected official in Bilbao, and now she's at the European Parliament. Oyan, I'm going to give you a specific challenge. Can you make your intervention in 2 minutes? Yes. Thank you very much.
Without that. No, thank you so much, Fabrizio, because it is a real pleasure for me to be here, surrounded by people close to my heart. Thank you all for being here, and thanks for believing in this initiative, because it gives us hope, because it addresses two big questions we face today in Europe. How do we protect our democracy, and how we do it by staying close to people? This observatory is born at a difficult moment. Politics feel tense, noisy, sometimes even aggressive, and in these moments, local democracy becomes our anchor. And is local democracy, local politics, it is the place where people still look each other to the eyes. Local leaders, mayors, councillors, your teams, you are on the front line. You deal with real problems, safety, housing, social services, daily life. And this is why you are so close to people, closer to the pressure, to the attacks, and to intimidation. Examples come to our mind, not just in Europe, but also in the Basque Country. Offices vandalized, public representatives targeted, campaigns designed to silence or to shame. It is painful, and it is growing. We cannot, or we must not normalize this. Our first task is to be vocal, raise awareness about it. When democracy is attacked, silence is not an option. Silence is a way to surrender. So we think that we must talk about it, name it, and stand up. Our second task is unity. Today it might be one party or one other politician, but tomorrow it could be another. But the target, we always say that it is the same, our democratic life, our values, and our society at the end. And indeed, social media is making it harder, I would say. Algorithms spread anger faster than thought. People feel confused, even mistrustful. The latest Eurobarometer shows exactly that false information, distrust in institutions, and foreign propaganda are the top fears of our citizens. So this is the moment when Democrats we need us most. And this is why this observatory matters, not just to analyze problems, but to inspire solutions, to rebuild trust, to show that respect is stronger than hate, that dialogue is stronger than fear, that local leaders can defend democracy in ways that are human, visible, and powerful. If we work together, we can trust this difficult moment into a turning point, I would say, a moment where we choose courage over silence, community over division, hope over fear, and democracy over extremism. So you can count on us to work on it. Thank you so much. Eskerrik asko.
Thank you very much, Oyan. Now, I have one bad news and one good news. The bad news is that, unfortunately, I won't be able to open the floor to any question because we are really running out of time. The good news is that we have the cocktail. The cocktail will be served just after this session, so we have plenty of moments for our bilateral exchanges. Now, I'm really happy to move to the wrap-up part of the meeting, and for this we have with us Mr. Anders Caballero, Secretary General of the External Action Service in the Basque government. Mr. Caballero, Ander, for me and for many of us, the Basque government and the Basque country has always been a reference in terms of leadership on innovation. And when we think of innovation, it's always or very often about technological innovation, industrial innovation, robotics, artificial intelligence. Your presence here shows how serious your commitment is on social innovation, because this observatory is social innovation. This is social innovation that can strengthen our communities and make our local democracy more resilient. Mr. Caballero, the floor is yours. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Fabrizio. Good afternoon, everyone. Well, the good news is that the cocktail is right there. The bad news is that I'm the last, and I'm the person, as usual, sitting, between the people and the cocktail. But I'll try to, keep up with the challenge. Thank you for those remarks. I think they make a lot of sense. They make us proud, but they make us responsible as well from the Basque Country, and the responsibility that we have also to contribute not only to democracy in our nation, in our country, but also to Europe, because we're deeply pro-European, we're deeply European, we were in the incipient steps of the creation of what today is the European Union, and we still keep that strength and that commitment. So I would like to begin just by recalling a simple idea that goes very much in line with this, and it's the fact that, and this is very rooted in our history, again, our well-being and the level of progress that we have achieved, which you were making reference before, is the result of a model based on institutional and community collaboration. The strengths of our institutions and our ability to continue to grow as a nation are thanks not only to the people who took the helm of the country back in the time, but also to the community's capacity of sharing responsibility and leadership. Horrela ulertzen dugu guk Euskadin demokrazia, eta horrela egin dugu gure bidea historian zehar. This is how we understand democracy in the Basque Country, in Euskadi, and this is how we've done it throughout history, and many times confronting all forms of totalitarianism. So today we want to double down on this belief. We know that the historic moment we're living in requires updated ways of governing, of doing things, that, as you were saying, emanate from the ancient sources, but they're, through innovation, we're bringing them to nowadays. And the challenges we face today, many of which are the jobs of the future, security, housing, migration, as the mayor was saying, inequality, emotional well-being, they require solutions that are not linear any longer, and that are not simple. They're very complex solutions that they require. And we live in a global context we've been discussing before: fragmentation of public space, polarisation, individualism, and all of these are threatening our political institutions, and hence democracy. Errealitate honen aurrean, gure erantzuna, demokrazia hobeagoa eta demokrazia gehiago da. Eta erdigunean beti komunitatea eta komunitatearen ongi izatea. So in the face of this reality that we're facing again, our response is unequivocal. It's more democracy, it's better democracy, and community well-being at the center of our action, as the mayor said earlier. And we do this both locally, again at the local level, public policy that impacts the lives of the citizens, but we do it also globally through our international outreach strategy called Euskadi Globala, Global Basque. And it's been said, and when we talk about democracy, we're definitely talking about the local level. And we're talking about the governments that are closer to the people, to the citizens. We're talking about local councils, about councillors, about mayors. Mayors and councillors that, as the video showed earlier, not only uphold community life, but are typically targets from tensions, harassments, and violence of all sorts. So today, we're also here today, I should say, to stand in their full support. And today we also celebrate that Euskadi, the Basque Country, has been selected as the leading territory of the European Observatory for the Defense of Democracy at the local level. The Association of Basque Municipalities, represented by Eudel, will be the Basque headquarters, and Bilbao will be its flagship city. We believe this is a recognition to our commitment to advancing collaborative governance. Collaborative governance is one of the keys in this new stage that we were talking about before. And it's key, as it was said earlier by the Commissioner, to build trust. And it is not enough just to consult with the stakeholders, to be transparent. We're talking about active listening, in-depth deliberation, shared action that leads the country's strategic projects, and are definitely aligned with Europe once again. Our framework, the framework that we're talking about, is integrated in the architecture of the European Democracy Shield that was, as I was spoken before with the Commissioner, helping to strengthen public trust, protect the integrity of the democratic debate, and combating polarization and disinformation. Because again, defending democracy does not just mean preventing its deterioration, it means strengthening it, it means making it more vibrant, more inclusive, and more capable of responding to the current needs. Therefore, today, we are reaffirming our commitment to continue to build, day by day, a country of cutting-edge democracy, a country with solid institutions and co-responsible citizenry, a country that contributes to the European project, and a country that offers the world an advanced model of coexistence, participation, and democratic quality. As we say in the Basque language, iturri zaharretik datorren ur berria. As Fabricio said earlier, from the old fountains, from the old sources, will come the new waters of change. And we will build this change as we've always done it, together. So thank you very much, and keep it to the challenge. Thank you.
Escaricasco, Secretary General, dear Ander, thank you very much. Now it's the moment to close this session. I hope you enjoyed this exchange as much as I did. I would like to say thank you again to the Basque government, to the city of Bilbao, to Odell, to the CMR, but also to the European Commission. Having you and the Commissioner today with us is extremely important, is encouraging. And now we are ready really to start to kick off this journey with hope. And we know that we will be able really to deliver the evidence and the messages that you need to work on tackling this issue. Thank you very much, everybody. And you will hear from us very soon, because this is a journey that is just starting. We have high ambitions. And please do check your emails in the next months, because we will reach out to you with an invitation for the next meeting of this observatory. Thank you, everybody. Let's move to the room next door for the cocktail.